Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary. Pour a cheerful toast and fill it, happy anniversary. But be careful you don't spill it, happy anniversary.
Well, thank you for tuning in. This is Matt Santos of the Mile High Show, and you are listening to episode number 192. We are slowly creeping up to episode 200, and I'd like to do something special for 200. I'm not sure what though. I'd really like to do another live podcast with an audience. I really enjoy doing those. We've done several over the years, and they're a lot of fun. So if you have any ideas, suggestions on either location or guest or both, or who knows, you want to be on it. You want to be on the podcast and sit and chew the fat with me. Send us an email at info@milehighshow.com. Again, info@milehighshow.com, or go over to milehighshow.com and send us a message through the contact us page. We'd like to make it something special for 200. We launched this show in December of 2014. We did, I think, one show in 2014, and then the new year came. So we're creeping up also on 4 years. So be part of it. It's a fun time. I hope you're enjoying listening to these. And today's episode is with, you'll hear his full title somewhere in the show. Ken Bousch. He calls himself the Jedi Knight of Yavapai Regional Medical Center. He is their community relations and marketing person, director over there at YRMC. They are celebrating, we're coming up on 200 episodes in 4 years. They got us beat. YRMC, the regional hospital here in Yavapai County in Prescott and Prescott Valley, is celebrating their 75th anniversary in the community. 75 years of keeping you healthy and mending your boo-boos and keeping us all on the straight and narrow health-wise. Ken Bousch sits down and talks with us. We sat in his office over there at YRMC in Prescott to talk about what brought him to Prescott, the changes he's seen in not just our area, but also the state. He is an Arizona native, and what his role is there. If you're interested in it's a really fascinating story and some neat video clips. At yrmc.org is their website, www.yrmc.org, and there's a link in there for what they're calling the memory catcher program. And this is a really neat thing. There's a bunch of videos up there where they have the hospital with Bridget O'Gara, fantastic lady. I got a chance to talk with. It's been about a year. No, about 10 months now. She's producing these videos for YRMC. She's in their PR department. And what it is, this memory catcher program is where they've reached out to members of the community and solicited some ideas and some stories for people in the community to share their memories of YRMC, of the hospital, of the entire program going back 75 years. My wife and I were fortunate enough, and our son Anthony were fortunate enough to sit down with Bridget a while back and record an interview with her, and it is there at yrmchealthconnect.org/category/memory catcher. Anyway, go to yrmc.org and in their search bar type in memory catcher. There's a bunch of neat videos from Rich Tenney, longtime family, the Tenney family here in Prescott. My Melon talking about being an old man, having a baby. Who else is on there? The Olson and Shishka families, no strangers to this area. They are long multi-generation Prescott area residents. The Rodarty family is in there. The James Family Heart Center. There's some really, really great clips. Elizabeth Ruffner a real treasure to our community, Elizabeth and the Ruffner family, J.C. Trujillo, the rodeo king here in Prescott, our neighboring mayor from Prescott Valley, Harvey Skoog, gives his. There's just a bunch of different memories, some very sad and touching, some very exciting and enjoyable memories, such as the birth of my son Anthony 9+ years ago at YRMC West. So go on there again. YRMC.org is the main site. Search that memory catcher in the search bar and go on over to the sister page and watch some of these videos. They're also on the YRMC YouTube channel. Everything's available at yrmc.org. It's just a real neat cornerstone of our community, and by viewing those videos and listening to Ken Bousch talk about his experience there, you'll get a good feel for how important YRMC and their employees are to our community. So enjoy episode 192 of the Mile High Show. Oh, and go over to milehighshow.com and use that Amazon link. Help us stay afloat. To pay for things like this podcast, like the hosting, like the microphone I'm talking into, and trips down to other areas like we will be this week for the All Things Comedy Festival in Phoenix. Let me pull that up. The All Things Comedy Festival in Phoenix. Tons of podcasts, tons of live shows. I'll be down there photographing it, hopefully recording an episode or two while I'm there. Information is at allthingscomedy.com. Or click the link right there at milehighshow.com. Enjoy my conversation with Ken Bousch and the history of YRMC right here on the Mile High Show.
Happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
My first question is, how do you pronounce your last name?
Bousch.
Bousch. Okay, just like it sounds. And your full role here, I had it down. It was kind of a lengthy title. Give me the official.
Well, it was Jedi Knoght, I think. No, it's the Director of Marketing and Communications at Yavapai Regional Medical Center. Yeah.
How long have you been in this position?
8 years, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I believe today or one day this week is actually my 8th year anniversary. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
8 years. You had mentioned off mic when we were chatting, home office for a while. Have you always been in the marketing and communication business, or?
Well, for most of my life, yes. You know, it wasn't my first choice, you know, growing up when I was thinking about what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I always really wanted to be a forest ranger, and then I studied to be an engineer, but got into, when I was in my early 20s, got a shot with an ad agency out of Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And kind of found my groove, and I've been in there in the same type of position for approximately 35 years now.
Public information, kind of community outreach type of things?
You know,
dealing with media?
Kind of the full spectrum, really. You know, started in a media buying capacity where I think most people in, you know, the agency world do really start off, and then client management, account management, new business, you know, all of the different realms, team management, managing creative teams, you know, managing account teams, kind of working your way up from a coordinator position to an account executive type of role into a account supervisor, director, vice president, you know, type of thing, and then here to YRMC.
You mentioned Scottsdale. You kind of got into. Has Arizona been home for you for your whole life?
Native of the great community of Globe, Arizona.
Nice.
So, born and raised in Arizona, but have had opportunities to work. Luckily, always based in Arizona, but with organizations really headquartered around the country.
Educate me. Globe, like southeast.
Globe is over in eastern Arizona on your way to Roosevelt Lake. If you're over by Superior, on the way to Show Low, up in that area.
Okay. Nice. Up in the mountains, mountain range?
About 1,000 feet lower than what we are here in Prescott.
Nice.
Came from a mining family. Grandfather was a railroad man working for the mines, the copper mines over in that part of the state. And my dad also worked for the mines over in that area.
Interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine. You may work with Bill. I don't know, Bill Monroe over at KPPV.
Name's familiar.
News correspondent over there. We do some work together on a couple of projects, and his family, a couple of generations ago in Bisbee mining, moved up to Baghdad, and then he spent most of his life, his young years, in Baghdad. I was just talking to him the other day. He was back for their homecoming. Last week, the week before, and that kind of environment is foreign to me. I come from a small town in what we considered a small town, but in the Metro Bay Area, suburb of Oakland. But the mining community, the small town atmosphere is one foreign to my growing up, but one that really drew me to this area. I live right outside of Prescott, but to be able to experience that, travel around, I spent a little time working in Show Low for a while, and a couple of times down in Bisbee, and then my job with local media, going to cover different events and things in Baghdad, Wickenburg, and things. Really, really love it, and kind of why we are here at YRMC. We'll get into it, talking about the history and the culture here and the impact of the medical center to this area. My son was very fortunate to have been born here, and now he's growing up in the big city of Chino Valley. We were originally in Paulden, but now he's in the big city of Chino. I'm very fortunate that he gets to grow up in this atmosphere, as opposed to where I did in the Bay Area, where it was just hustle and bustle, and just the feeling of this small town and what institutions like Yavapai Regional Medical Center mean to an area, or the mining community, the way everything was kind of built around the mine in Bisbee and in Baghdad and in Globe and things like that. It's very interesting to see it from an outsider, kind of.
It's nice I'm glad that you can still find that type of environment in Arizona. You know, I'm 53 now. A lot of the Arizona I grew up with doesn't exist anymore. You know, it's the growth in the metro areas. Things change. Describe
your childhood growing up in Globe. What was it like? What was the population like?
Oh, I don't recall what the population was, to be honest with you. It's about the same today, I guess, as it was back then, and I never really paid too much attention to it. It's home, it's a lot of folks that you deal with, that you run across, that have been to Globe, sometimes wonder about, what you see in a place like that. It's, but home is where your heart is. Home is where you're from. So, I enjoyed, back in those days, I was very privileged, being around still a lot of old Arizonans, a lot of old miners, a lot of old ranchers. Those were my dad's friends. Those were my grandfather's friends, the stories, seeing places, very outdoor oriented lifestyle. There really wasn't much else to do, but that kind of thing. So, good way to grow up, in my opinion. Not a lot of ways to get in trouble back in those days. There wasn't a lot of places to get in trouble. So,
and I'm imagining if you did get into any trouble, small town like that, word would get back to the folks pretty quick.
Good, clean fun. And if you stepped over the line, then, generally the people that you were stepping over the line with knew who your folks were. So, you tend to be very respectful.
Yeah. Big family, siblings. What was the
I've got
the Bousch family like?
5 sisters.
Oh, wow.
And a couple of brothers. So, but very aged, not a real tight family.
Yeah.
In that world, we tended to move a lot.
Yeah.
So you went to where the work was.
Where the work, yeah.
And price of copper would fluctuate. So, one day you'd be your dad would be working in the smelter or working at some capacity within the mine. The next day he'd be driving a truck for somebody for a while until the copper prices came up or a strike. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, there always seemed to be some kind of a strike going on. So you dealt with it and you got through it. And that's what eventually led us from that instability really led us down into the Phoenix area. And I've probably lived in just about 3/4 of the communities in the state of Arizona at one time, And
how old were you when you ended up in the big city of the Phoenix Valley, that area?
Oh, about 10, 11, I guess, would be about the time that we went down west side, West Phoenix, over in Pendergast Elementary, the old Cartwright School District. Some of that early settlement in the Phoenix area when they started to develop the Salt River, and the agriculture started to take off. Those were some of those old neighborhoods and out in the Tolleson area. And for a while.
You've seen some changes in both the population and the whole landscape, the way it grows. We had
one freeway. Well, we didn't even have a freeway when I was a kid. I mean, there was a wide spot of road that didn't go. It didn't start in one place. It didn't go to one place. It was just the old Black Canyon, that kind of ran through the middle of the old part of town there. But 60 didn't exist, and certainly none of the other loops and stuff that go through the. I tend to get lost when I go down into that community now.
So you ended up here in Prescott. You living in town now, or you live in the outskirts?
Live over in the Dells.
Nice.
Live in found a nice little home. Nothing special, but pretty country and close to the lakes and close to the trails and what we like to do.
Well, you're hitting 8 years here. I've been in this area for about 14 or so, and definitely it is home now. When we go back to visit in the Bay Area, it's I can't wait to get back. As soon as we start hitting some of that traffic and the urban sprawl, it's okay. Let's take care of whatever it is we're here to do, whether wedding or visit or whatever, and let's get back home. But you have celebrating your 8 years here, and Yavapai Regional Medical Center celebrating 75 years in the community.
75, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about some of the planning that went into to marking this occasion.
Well, I'd like to say that we had, that we were working on this for a great amount of time, that we had some grand, plan in place, but we did put a lot of thought into it. 75 years is an important milestone, and the relationship that YRMC has really with the community is unique. It's I don't think a lot of people realize how this organization was really created by this community. Yeah. It wasn't a company that moved here from someplace. It was a volunteer, as you would expect from a Western community, a can-do where, when you don't have something in the community, no one's going to give it to you. You have to create it. So the spirit of volunteerism, the spirit of community, some folks in our community who came together, created a hospital district, which was about 76 years ago, approximately, and that led to the creation of Prescott Community Hospital, and then through the years there's been a metamorphosis, of course. But so what we were looking for was a way to have the community or people in the community tell the story of their relationship with YRMC more than YRMC talking to the community about that relationship.
Because really that's what makes up the hospital. I mean, you can walk through the halls, through the waiting rooms, the ER and things, and everyone from, some of the volunteers in the parking lot to even, you got some construction going on, the guys and gals working construction, to the volunteers in the hospital, the techs, the RNs, the doctors. You see the faces of the community when you walk through here. When my wife and son and I came in and talked to Bridget, we passed 4 or 5 of our neighbors as we were coming through. These are the folks that we bump into at the grocery store, the coaches and team parents of Little League and everything else. really involved in the community and taking care of the community. And you don't necessarily see that. I never did in the very few times I was in a hospital growing up. Our family was, you went to the doctor or the ER when you broke something. Mm-hmm. That was our experience with the hospitals. But here it's very entrenched. It's a very deep connection with first responders, with the hospital staff, and the community. And it's really neat to see when you walk into a place and you see familiar faces. Because quite frankly, when most people come to the buildings here, it's not necessarily their best day.
No, you tend to see people on their best day and their worst day.
Yeah,
in a hospital environment, and I think there's a lot of truth to what you say, and I don't know if I'd say that it raises the stakes, but it is a conscious realization that the people you're dealing with are your family, their neighbors. I mean, you see the people. I see people I work with. I see people that come through the doors in my daily life every week. So I like that feel. I mean, I think there's a trust that's associated with that, and a commitment that you get from communities. So you're not just somebody walking into the door of a place.
You're not a number on a computer screen.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, I think, we're still small enough to really have that personal connection with the community, and having worked with, it's really one of the reasons why I chose to end up here at YRMC was, I'd been doing healthcare consulting with organizations all across the country, big companies, big healthcare corporations, and great experiences. Loved a lot of those people that I worked with, learned a lot. But at the end of the day, when you walk down these hallways, there's eye contact made, there's hellos, there's good mornings. And you don't always see that in a lot of the other locations,
especially in the larger metro areas where you are literally just a number, whatever that insurance card or that whatever you're carrying in your wallet, that's what you are, and it doesn't even change when you're being treated. A lot of times, obviously, doctors and healthcare professionals do what they can to take care of you, but in a larger area where they just have to get to the next patient. And I know in our limited contact here at the hospital, every time we've come in, we've felt the connection of let's what can we do for you kind of an atmosphere, which was kind of foreign to us when we moved here. So it's nice to see. If we can go through it, I don't know how much of this you got locked away in your brain, but
I will do the best I can. I'll do the best I can. How's that?
Bridget sent over some information on the history. 43 looks like one of the first notable events that was the start of the community hospital.
It was the original building, and it's such a fascinating period. I love history as it is, but there was already a county hospital serving the community, and it was really kind of a pauper's hospital, so to speak. The main health care in the community had been provided by the Sisters of Mercy, I believe, who had a hospital. They opened up here before the turn of the century. Some of those roots are still visible over on Prescott College, if I'm not mistaken. Some of those buildings in there were the original. So, but the hospital building burned down, and the community needed to respond. So the district was formed, and I think that was Jefferson School. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Jefferson Elementary School. Was the opening of the Prescott Community Hospital in the old Jefferson Elementary in 43. You guys have a great display through the halls of the main campus here in Prescott of some old photographs and some great portraits of some of the key players throughout the history of the hospital. So if anybody's got a chance, kind of come wander through the hallways next time you're visiting or stopping in the hospital. Some great historical images there.
There really are. And what was cool about this journey is, we had a chance to work very closely with the folks over at Charlotte Hall and some families, some of the families that are the cornerstones of this county and this community, and seeing their photo archives and having discussions with those folks. So you get to see those, when you're out at the chapel at Fane Lake as an example, and you see Dr. McNally's name and through picking up bits and pieces of information, through looking at other historical information, you see where that name has come up time and again. It just really does
cornerstones of the community.
Kind of pulls it all together a little bit for you.
Again, this is my limited knowledge of the history around here, but in talking with some of the long-term families and the families that have been here for generations, and some of the businesses and organizations that have been here for a while, there was the rough and tumble Wild West that is portrayed and still visible in some areas, like on Whiskey Row. And, of course, the halls of Charlotte Hall Museum has some great displays. Through the 19th century and the early part of the 20th century, a whole lot didn't change. There was a lot of things. Then there were some changes in the 30s and through the 40s and the post-war. But a lot of that feeling was still, from what I've experienced and what I've been told in talking with some folks, stayed like that for quite some time, up through the 70s and even into the 80s. Yeah. And then the area and the surrounding area, the Quad City area, including Chino and Prescott Valley, kind of went through a boom in the last 30-plus years, culminating in like the early 2000s, when the growth was just going wild around here. So a lot of these people that have been participating in the Memory Catcher program, really, their stories are really talking and showing how the roots of this community were through the eyes of the hospital, so to speak. Yeah. It's really interesting to see. Now, I've gone through and watched several of these videos and looked through them and had a great time participating in it ourselves. But when, like we'd mentioned, when you talk about a hospital, of course, there's the births that are great and exciting and of course memorable. But a lot of people who come through the halls and through the doors of the hospital are experiencing some very traumatic things. Did that come into play? What were some of the discussions when you started this program of people sharing their experiences through video? Was that a concern?
It really wasn't. It was interesting because, asking people to share their memories or their relationship with the hospital is an unusual request that most people don't think about. So, we were trying to, everything was really on the table regarding things that were happening in the community. The hospital, it didn't have to necessarily be something that was associated directly with the hospital. The hospital was always there. It was always a part of the community, being the size of the community it was in those days. There was always a relationship, whether you thought about it or not, So, we had some very compelling stories that came out of our a lot of the early stories were really just about the development of the foundation of what was going to be the hospital, and how do you Miss Phillips has a great story about the calf sale that every year, I mean, if you think about that's just the beauty of the area, that every year the hospital auxiliary needed to raise about $400 to balance the books for the year, and how honest is that? $400, and a rancher donates a calf, and so they have an auction, and that's how they make ends meet, and you just that's so a lot of those early stories were around that. Some of the formation of the auxiliary, which through the years has led to the foundation that's here. I love the stories. Your story is an example. When we were, interviewing you and your family, there was a We had several stories of people who had been part of multiple generations born here, and would share about how they've been involved in the community and how they were involved in education or what have you, the relationship they had with teachers, how it led them. Rich Tenney, one of our physical therapists, he had 2 stories that we published for the Memory Catcher program that were just, remarkable, just lovely examples of their family's commitment to, the community and how they've grown up around this facility. So, we didn't get anything that we didn't turn anything away.
Yeah.
So there was nothing that we felt uncomfortable with in terms of stories that were submitted.
Was there anything that really surprised you? Was there any, like a real, oh, wow kind of a thing? No, I got to ask, what was that ringtone?
That's a burro.
A burro. Your old mine roots. That's how you used to bring the copper up from the
I've always had I love donkeys, love burros, and so my ringtone is a burro. Surprising. I think I was surprised by how willing people were to share intimate stories of their family with us. Here we are, we're total strangers. So that was surprising. I was very grateful for that. We really took that seriously. Again, getting back to that community, you run across people, we're neighbors, we're friends. We tried to treat all of that with that type of respect. So, surprising in terms of unusual stories or anything like that. You got to love JC's story where he's in the ED and his dad's in the ED next to him, for different reasons, and I don't believe they both knew they were in there until later on. So those are kind of cool things to learn about, but. Just that willingness to share was the bright spot.
And again, very telling of how the center, YRMC, has impacted the community, because people were willing to kind of bear all, really, is what it boils down to.
Oh, and, come in and I mean, you know how this is. I mean, you turn a camera on or what have you. I mean, you're not just asking someone to give you a story, but you're asking for them to sit behind a video camera, or you're asking for them to, to be interviewed or what have you. And that's not an easy thing for most people.
I'm typically on the other side. I'm very rarely in front of the camera. I'm usually behind it. That it was how that started. The Memory Catcher program, I saw a post through social media. Hey, are you willing to share? So I filled out a little questionnaire. Didn't expect to hear anything back. And then when I did, I was like, oh no, we gotta. And I just between you and I and the anybody who's listening to this, my wife does not listen to this podcast at all. She's never heard an episode. I didn't tell her I submitted that until we had set the date up to come in and videotape it. So she was one of those that wasn't that willing to do it. So
I could tell by the look on her face when she was there that you were saying a lot, and she had a look on her face like, all things being equal, I'd like to be somewhere else.
When we were done, she was very happy we did. She enjoyed it, but she is not one that she's not on social media at all, so which is a good thing, because I could pretty much post whatever I want and it doesn't come back and bite me too often. But we both were. She's an employee of a local municipality here that I do a lot of work for on a contract basis. So periodically I will. And I don't use social media. Pretty much everything I do on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, is work-related. It's going to end up in an article. It'll end up on a podcast or on my radio show or something. I kind of vet ideas through social media is what I use it for, and to promote things like this, like the podcast. But I don't use it necessarily personally. It's always work related somehow. But I'll get a call every once in a while that one of her coworkers, one of the people that we work together with, will comment to her at her desk. Hey, I saw Matt did this, Matt did that, or you said this. She calls me up. She goes, why are you putting everything we do on? So every once in a while it comes back and bites me. But for the most part, I can fly under the radar a little bit because she's not one for Facebook or anything like that. I've joked around that I'm gonna. Well, kind of half joking. I'm just going to create an account under her name, and it's just going to be filled with posts about how great her husband is, and I don't think that would last too long. I think Facebook would shut me down before anybody else. The entire area here is in the process of celebrating some major milestones. Of course, YRMC 75 years this past March, I think was the
it was 1st of March 2nd, right? First week of March.
Yavapai College celebrating 50 years. I'm in the process of working with the town of Chino Valley, the incorporation. 50 years in 2020. So I'm on a couple of committees over there, and we're working on some events and some items and some programs, projects to commemorate that. So we got a little jump start, I think, spurred on by Yavapai Regional and the college kind of, we better do something. So we're starting a little early, working on some things. And I'll just cop to it right now. We're stealing the memory catcher idea, and we're borrowing that concept.
Please do. I think it's a great idea.
To reach out to some of the community to get their stories of how they ended up in Chino, what they've done to stay here, and why they've stayed here. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of crossover of the experiences with the hospital and the different departments here, because again, it's so entrenched in the community. Where do you see the hospital going from here? What are some of the projects that are on the horizon for YRMC?
Well, you've noticed there's quite a bit of construction going on our West Campus here. We are adding a new cath lab, which is part of the James Family Heart Center. So the Heart Center's growth has been terrific. It opened in 2007. The adoption, the bringing in of new services through that program has been impressive, and the caliber of people that we've been able to recruit to the community. And oftentimes I don't think people realize that when we're out there recruiting and competing with we're competing with everybody in the country generally for some of these folks that we're bringing in here, and that's made a big we've made a nice name for ourselves to the point where we actually have become a destination program where people are traveling to Prescott to receive some form of heart care.
Nice.
We will continue to do our work along the lines, and there's going to be some additional things that come with this current expansion. There'll be some more ICU rooms that are available. It's interesting. Healthcare is shifting to really more outpatient and less inpatient, but our community at the same time. So where other hospitals around the country are literally have a surplus of beds in many instances because they're moving out to other centers. There's organizations are moving their facilities out to where the population centers are. We're seeing the dynamic of growth in our outpatient lines, but at the same time, because of the growth of the community, we're seeing still a need for more patient beds on our campuses. So we always will need more space, really. We will be following up the construction that we're working on right now with a very large medical complex that will be here on this campus and a parking garage. I don't have a lot of detail about that yet, but that construction project is closer than farther on our timeline. And what it's going to allow us to do is bring more of our specialists who need to be close to the EDs and need to be close to the patients that are admitted and what have you. They'll have more space on campus here. We'll have more community space for teaching one of the things that YRMC does an exceptional job of is, from a community outreach standpoint, is our community benefit and our health education programs. We make a lot of health education programs available to the community. Sometimes finding locations to have those type of events and to have the technology available that we would like to have to present those type of events can be challenging.
Give me some examples. What do you?
Well, we really would like to get to a point. We cover, our service area is 5,500 square miles. So think about the size that this organization, provides care to.
Yeah.
So you're talking about somebody in Baghdad. You're talking about somebody in Ashfork. Having the ability for those folks to be impacted by our health education programs to learn about things that would make them better healthcare consumers or smarter healthcare decision makers.
So the education you're speaking of is for the general public on how to wellness programs and things of that nature.
Yeah, but they can't get here.
Yeah.
They're a long way away. Rural families oftentimes could be one-car families. Somebody's off at work. They've got the automobile, so being able to get into town or what have you and to do this type of thing, or the cost of fuel. So the ability to broadcast out, is an example. Having a place where we can create broadcast material and feed it out to the community. Those are what I'm talking about, having technology available to allow us to reach everybody that we need to.
How connected or how involved is the hospital and the foundation in with, when you were mentioning education? I was thinking of like the JTED and the CTED programs. Because one of actually my son's old babysitter, a friend of ours, works here in the hospital now, who got a lot of training while she was still in high school. What are some of can you talk a little bit about those programs with the community to kind of train the next generation of healthcare providers?
Well, I don't have as much information for you that I think would give you what you're looking for. I can tell you that our human resources department, as an example, is really more involved in that area, working with the local colleges, making sure there are training programs available. I can tell you from my perspective, from my seat and where I am at, we do contribute to scholarship programs to Yavapai College. We do contribute to their faculty. We contribute to programs out of Baghdad to make sure those folks that are part of our service area are accounted for and get the same kind of respect and commitment from us as anybody. But there's programs beyond that we're involved in from my world. For instance, we sponsor a program for all of our schools in our service area that's called Go Noodle, which is it's a physical activity program for children. It predominantly is used in classrooms. For instance, getting children to get a little exercise in so that their minds are right for the curriculum that they're going to be studying, or even after they come in from recess when maybe they're a little too, turned on and need to have some relaxation exercises to bring them down.
Oh, nice.
And we've been doing that since, about 2010. And we've had great success. I mean, we've had over 1 million minutes of physical activity each of the past several years from students in the community. So those are some things that we don't really talk a lot about that we're doing, for education, for helping, for trying to instill good, healthy habits. We're working
at a young age, that it just carries on in through the rest of their lives.
Exactly. Like we're working right now on our Celebrate Life Health Expo for 2019 that we're going to have one day dedicated to kids. We're bringing in we've got a 90-foot, and I know I'm off a little bit on this, but we've got a giant inflatable body that we're bringing in that you could literally walk inside of the body and see organs and read about things. A great anatomy tool. We'll have a giant 30-foot heart. We're working and reaching out to the school districts right now, and we're trying to get the kids involved to showcase their science and their health projects.
Nice.
And so we're trying. I mean, it's a very complicated healthcare world today.
Yeah.
And helping children get involved and understand how that works and how your body works and how you build good, healthy habits is important in our mind.
Last spring, we just took a little quickie couple-day vacation down to the valley just to be near a pool and go goof around. We went to the Children's Museum in Phoenix, and they had a display on various things dealing with the body and health and things. And when an 8-year-old can walk through the intestinal tract of a huge room-sized model, there is nothing more enjoyable or hilarious to an 8-year-old boy than to walk through a digestive tract. And it was just as fun for a 51-year-old man as well. Mom didn't think it was as funny as we did, but
it's, just to see, sometimes those are the best rewards in life, is just to see a smile on someone's face. And
when you can have some fun while learning something, there's a lot to do. One of the things that because I do a lot of work with local schools and the high schools around, and again, to really stress the role that YRMC has in the community. Like I had mentioned, we have a friend who works, she's an RN here, who started her education in healthcare through high school. And when I see, not just in the hospital walls, but when I see former students from the junior high and the high school who go through Yavapai College to learn everything from, fire sciences to joining the local fire districts and fire departments to the medical, coming out as medical professionals, and they choose to stay right here in the community. If we were to walk through the emergency room right now, I'm sure we would run into local familiar faces with the fire districts and the PD, and you've got the great native air out there, the helicopters. We have friends that fly with them. The feeling that people have for the hospital of, I'm going to learn something, I'm going to become a valuable member of the community, and then better yet, I'm going to stay in the community, is really a testament to the way that the programs ran and the desire for people to give back to the community and really, really build up that community relationship is really nice to see. Again, not something you necessarily see in a larger metro area, but here in Prescott and YRMC, where we see those familiar faces and people who have chosen to stay in the area and make the area just that much better to live is really nice to see.
Well, it's kind of an interesting dynamic, because one of the things that I think is equally important to somebody who's career-minded, a young person growing up in a community, we see it so often across our nation where, the exodus of people from our Midwest, from our farm belts and what have you, they want to get to the cities, the larger metro areas, because that is where the challenge is, where the growth is, where the opportunity is. So to run across a situation like you have here at YRMC, where not only you have so you grow up here, you have the lifestyle, you like the lifestyle, you got the connections and the family. Yeah, you do have a healthcare career option available, but you've got a pretty good healthcare career option. Yeah. So, we're doing hearts, we're doing neurosurgery here, we're doing a lot of cool things at this organization that you wouldn't find at a community hospital in a smaller location in most instances. So it's a good mix to have not only the scope of the community, the size of the community, but also an organization that is doing some things that provides the challenge that sometimes those overachievers would go someplace else to find.
Yeah. Now, the building we're in right now is the foundation.
Yeah.
Now,
built in '64.
Can you talk? What's the role of the foundation to the hospital?
Well, we're the foundation. You're in a building. This is a division. This monstrous cavernous place that you're in right now with all six of us is actually a whole division at YRMC. I'm in the community outreach side. we do have a foundation. So I don't work with the foundation, but they're my coworkers. They're right here in the same place. Their role is to work closely with the generous people in our community who want to continue to see their healthcare options grow.
Yeah.
And the foundation's focused 100% really on developing programs that benefit healthcare programs at YRMC. So it's not a foundation that's contributing to other organizations in the community. They're raising funds to benefit healthcare through YRMC.
So to partner with the organizations, the businesses, the different individuals in the community to avoid having to have another cattle sale, maybe.
Good example, James Family Heart Center.
Yeah.
Great example. East Campus, the generosity of the Fain family. James family with the Heart Center, the Breast Care Center's development. Those are all here today and available for people today because of someone's generous contribution from our community.
Because of the partnerships with the community, spearheaded by the foundation.
Yeah. So. It gets back to what I was mentioning, that the roots of the organization, really it's, we're all just kind of caretakers and we're all taking care of a seat right now that was taken care of by a generation before us, and it was taken care of by a generation before them, and it all is here at YRMC. It's here in Prescott, and so that gets back to what makes it special.
So I'm not going to be able to do it in my head because I'm not that bright, but 25 years from now, as we're entering into the 100-year, the centennial anniversary for YRMC, what are some of the things that you can envision? You pull out your crystal ball. What do you think the buildings? What do you think the programs? What do you think the focus of the hospital will be in 25 years?
I think it's going to, there's a good foundation that's been put into place through the years. We really are much more of a health system today than we are just a hospital. We have 2 hospitals. We've got 26 or 28 clinics throughout the community. We've got outpatient service centers. We've got outpatient imaging centers. We're moving into more virtual telemedicine programs today. I think what a lot of folks, would be surprised to find out is how digitally active we are as an organization. I just heard last week that we were selected for like the 3rd year in a row as one of the most wired hospitals in the United States.
Interesting.
When we've got a significant. We've made a significant investment. We were really at the head of the class in terms of how we were adopting our electronic medical record technology into the organization, how we were allowing providers to share and communicate and collaborate. Now, if you were to ask me 25 years down the road, I would say that it will be greater in those areas. Yeah. We need to see as a community better bandwidth and better fiber optic technology coming in to allow us to fulfill some of the things that we need to fulfill.
To keep up with that need,
Need to continue to make a commitment to our physician partners in the community to make sure that they have access to the technology that we're communicating, that we're sharing information there, that we're pushing out our services to meet the growth of the community. You see the growth. I mean, it's coming around through Prescott Valley and amazing. We're seeing one of those 80s. There's every 20 years it seems in Arizona there's a giant growth spurt, and we're seeing certainly one of those again right now. So trying to predict and stay on top of those growth patterns and where people are coming from and what the demographics are going to be and what kind of care they're going to need, and then making sure that we're there. For them is I think where we're going to continue to put our focus.
Just recently, I want to say the last 6-8 weeks, the new ribbon cutting and opening of Chino Valley's campus out there, the offices out there. So continually reaching out to the community, seeing where they can where you guys can provide the best service.
Yep.
Now, as people are in need of especially specialized treatment, whether it be for neuro or heart or cancer treatment, whatever it happens to be, obviously people are looking for the best possible care, the best possible providers, and there's names that are thrown around, Mayo Clinic and
Sure.
various things, trauma centers in other areas. We'll give it to you right now. We'll put you on the spot. Give us a little PSA, why people would want to choose YRMC for their health care. What can you tell the community to encourage them to come right here?
I think our position really is that we don't do everything at YRMC. Nobody does everything.
Yeah.
There's no hospitals anywhere that provide all types of care. What we do a pretty good job of. We make a commitment to bring something to the community, and I believe we do it right. I believe there's good information up front that helps our administrative team make the right decisions. We are able to bring the right talent in, and that's a great testament to the community itself.
Yeah.
Because we're able to sell a good package to medical professionals across the country. So I would say you're going to get as good a care here as you'll get anywhere, and in many cases you're going to get better care than you're going to get in most places. But, you got to give due respect. I mean, Mayo Clinic isn't Mayo Clinic for no reason, and Cleveland Clinic, and you get into some of those, they have good reputations because they have good reputation. They do good work. And
with the great staff that you have, and like you were mentioning, the way that that the hospital strives to communicate and reach out, they'll be able to partner you'll be able to partner your patients up with the best care wherever that happens to be.
Look at the resumes of the people who work here. I mean, that's where they're coming from. Our doctors are coming from the Banners. They're coming from the Mayos. I mean, I've got a lot of providers that are on our medical staff right now that came out of the Mayo system. So, that's where they're getting their training at. That's, but they choose to come to a place because they may be at a point in their life where it's an opportunity to have maybe more of that lifestyle that you wanted to, and it gets back to that point, and I don't have to give up anything professionally to do it. I can still have professional integrity. I can balance it with lifestyle, and we've got a pretty good thing going because of that.
Yeah, and if you got to live in the shadow of something, the shadow of Thumb Butte is a little more attractive than the shadow of the airport down in Phoenix.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I do not miss, 747s taking off all the time. No doubt about it.
Well, Ken, I want to thank you for your time. It's been great talking with you, and I encourage anybody listening to visit the site. There'll be a link in the show notes to view some of those interviews and some of those video clips of people sharing their stories, sharing their connection with the hospital, and what a gem, what a cornerstone for the community that YRMC is. So I want to thank you for your time.
Matt, it's been my pleasure. It really has been my pleasure.
Anything else you want to mention, encourage people, or?
Hey, it's October, remember, it's an important thing to get across all the time. Make sure you're getting your screening, your breast screening. Make sure you're being proactive with your health care. So, that's what I'd like to end with.
Great, thanks.
And 49 said, Mama told Papa, look at here, Mama, let me do my thing. I feel so good. I feel good. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Lord. Ho, ho. good. I just wanna do the boogie. I don't care. It'll take all night long. I just wanna do the boogie. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I wanna do the boogie. I wanna do the boogie. I wanna do the shimmy. I wanna do the twist. Oh yeah. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. And dance.